is if you can get that incrementally from everyone that wants the rules, they will do that. And then because people go, okay, £5 a month, that's good. I get all the rules. I get all this video stuff. I get all these painting tutorials. I get all the old issues of White Dwarf where I can read fluff. And then they go, oh, but we're not selling you books anymore. So where are we going to make the other money? They're going to buy more miniatures, you dumb. How's it going then? How's gaming going?
Oh my God, buddy. It has been a hot minute since we talked. And in that hot minute, I started working for a game store as a marketer.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, sorta. I mean, right? Sorta. Like you worked at a GW store, right?
I worked at Games Workshop for 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think things have changed a lot since then. One of the things I've really noticed is that people are so much nicer, and the gaming community, the gaming industry is just like it's not this like hive of scoundrels anymore. Everybody's really nice and easy to get along with. It's been so great. But I will say that there's been a direct causation link to the decline of my own ability to game since I've been working at a game store. Like I just right? Was it like that when you worked at Games Workshop?
Yeah, I would say when I was working at Games Workshop, that was 2002 to 2005. So what was that, like 4th edition 40k, 4th and 5th? It was good times.
Good times.
Good editions of 40k, I thought.
Beautiful.
Because it was a refinement of 3rd, and 3rd was, not the best of starts, but we'll talk about that with reference to 10th in a minute.
Indeed we will. Indeed we will.
And like Warhammer was, I think, at a pretty good place as well, because like Tomb Kings came out then, and I had a Tomb Kings army, and that was pretty sweet. But yeah, like you play that and you're demoing things, and you're told, you should collect I know everyone goes on like, yeah, okay, I get it. Lord of the Rings is a pretty good system and it works things, but I didn't have it in me to want to collect then a Lord of the Rings army at all. I just didn't give a shit. Like I could demo it, but I didn't give a shit about. I think it was just like it was nice on screen, but I don't give a shit about the minis. Like I think they've come on a lot since then, but I just didn't really give a fuck.
That's hilarious.
And I had my boss being one of my bosses at the time, because I was like, towards the end of my stint there, I was the longest serving staff member in that store.
My God.
The staff member who'd worked the longest in that store.
Sure.
I'd had 4 managers in that time period, which is crazy to think.
Because it shows how well they treat them. That's what that shows. Because they're moving up the ladder and they're going on to better things.
Or just quit moving up the ladder. No, moving horizontally and being paid more. And obviously at the end of my time period, the area manager was like, you're pretty good, you should be a manager. And I was like, I'm going to be doing a PhD, so fuck that. I'll be paid more than a manager. But anyway, the point is, I had my manager at the time was like, oh, you need to collect an army. And I was like, look, you're telling someone who's an undergraduate student, you need to buy a Lord of the Rings army. You're saying I have to buy one. Where in my contract does it say I have to buy an army? If you give me the miniatures to paint, to have an army and play the game, I will do that. I will fucking paint.
Yeah.
You can buy me. You can get me at staff for free. I mean, obviously for promotional needs, a Army of the Dead, because that would be fucking easy to paint.
Sure.
And
I will very few models.
That. Yeah, right. And I will do that. But no, so I told him to fuck off with that. And before he started, the previous guy who was a manager, who was he's a friend of mine. It was under his tenure that we had our staff games night going. And what did we play during staff games night? Confrontation and Warmachine.
Oh my goodness! And that was at the GW store.
That was at the GW store.
Oh my goodness! Wow. If Brian Ansel could hear this now, he'd just like jump up out of his chair. He'd just start running towards you.
Oh no! It'd be Tom Kirby would have hunted us down for it. It was that time period. So yeah, I know what you mean. Like you because like now, obviously, what you're doing is like you're promoting what's the hot shit right now, right?
Right.
You're like
Yeah.
you're trying to like absorb all the new stuff, which I'm sure is great when it's other game systems. That isn't Warhammer 40k right now, but and then you're trying to promote that and help people know what they want to buy. But that's a lot of stuff, and I can't imagine what it must be like when you've got people collecting not just 40k, but like or GW, but like all of these game systems. I know, and you want to know enough of them because obviously for the store you can't just rely on Games Workshop and Magic the Gathering as being your cash cows, right? You've got to
Well,
diversify the intake.
what's yeah, and hopefully, here's really the thing about, in my mind, about running like a really successful game store is, and not like I own one or even run one, but this is what I have seen, this is what I've experienced, and this is some of the things that we kind of grapple with now, where I'm working, which is the employees that you hire. You probably want to hire people who are not just knowledgeable about the games, and it's shocking, Chris, let me tell you, it's shocking the number of people who will apply to a game store and know nothing about the product. They know nothing. They maybe know one game and they want to work at the game store because of that one game. They can't speak on anything else. So not only do they have to have an intellectual understanding of these various products, but you really want someone who's passionate about it so that because that passion will generate interest, it'll generate activity, it'll generate like sales in the store. But that passion, like, it comes from within the worker, right? It comes from within that person. And it's really one of these kind of Venn diagrams where it's like you're taking the thing that makes you want to get up in the morning and experience life, and then you're like selling it for an hourly rate. And then when the weekend comes around, you're like, fuck, I'm tired. Yeah, right. I'm tired. I want to watch Wheel of Time or some crap like that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's where I am right now, because I'm finding I'm just about ready to like start running RPGs some more again, because I think the pandemic with like the running stuff online and doing lots of stream games, and then also on top of that really like taking off with like writing for RPGs like on a ton of projects, all of that just kind of made me go like, do I really want to fucking run something and herd cats even more?
Yeah.
When I know everyone's like, with life opening up again, trying to herd the cats to get people in meat space to play an RPG is a lot of hard work. Whereas like playing war games is fairly easy. There's a bit less investment on my part to go like, oh, let's try and integrate your character into the plotline. Which would be pointless if you're not there for 2 fucking weeks. Like, at least with Necromunda, you're not there for 2 weeks. Well, that's on you.
It is easier because there's only 2 people who have to agree on the day and the time and how long you're going to be there. You are right about that. It is, and I have been doing a little bit. I've been running again, and I say that, but I haven't actually the game that I'm running. We haven't met since July because we bought. I know, right? It's October. My wife and I, we bought a new house and we moved. Yay! And I started this job. Thank you. There's been a lot going on. It's been good stuff.
I feel it. You've been going through the same shit as me. Like, I started a new job back in start of June. I've only been in my new job for like 4 months, and that takes it out of you. Like, you're going like, there's all this stuff I need to know. I've been decorating the house like fuckload. So, when there's like a big pot of paint, and then there's your tiny little paint, you're like, fuck it. I can't be asked.
But so I mean, seriously, in terms of games, in terms of games that I've played outside of a sanctioned event that I was somehow running for a store or part of for the store that I work for, it's been very minimal. I think I've played I don't know, less than half a dozen games of 10th edition that are
that's more than me.
that were motivated by my desire to play, and not like being part of a league or something. And then I've played a couple games of Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone.
All right, yeah.
So cool. And that's it. That's all I've gotten to do. And then everything else has just belonged to a game store, for which by the way, dozens of games, just
Yeah.
dozens of 10th edition games. I've played quite a bit.
Wow. Okay, we can get into that. Like that's pretty much I thought would be the topic of this. Is like because I'm in a weird place. Like we're about 2/3 the way through a Necromunda campaign, and it's good with the vehicles. It's pretty sweet. Enforcers, I am the underdog in the campaign because we start off with the Dominion rules, and I've said this on the last episode. Enforcers get fucked over on that. I am super stoked with the new Necromunda book coming out that has new Enforcer stuff and Squat stuff and Vansar.
Hang on.
Vansar and Enforcers? Hurrah.
Hang on. So, wait. So the Dominion rules, is that... Because I remember I was in a Necromunda campaign. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I guess it was kind of a long time ago. And we were having this problem too, which is that there's some kind of rule for Enforcers about territories, right? And like who can trade them.
You can't claim territories. So what happens is the Enforcer gang has a precinct house, which provides a stipend, and then if you fight for a territory, you can claim it temporarily and police it, and therefore get some creds from it, or you can assign it to another gang. And that's because the Enforcers have their own campaign goal, which is to be peacemaker, which basically means you ensure that no gang has more territories than any other gang in the campaign. So long as you've got 2 people at the end of the campaign on equal territories, you win peacemaker. So
okay. That somehow escaped us when we were playing it. Yeah. This whole thing about the Peacemaker, this is the first time I ever heard it. When we were running it, it was this big, all this like back and forth, and kind of like everybody was up in arms about like, well, what does it mean that the Enforcers get to trade territories? Because on some level, that seems like it's the most powerful thing in the game. If you can do that, that just seems like super duper powerful.
It's not really trading, you're just assigning it. I mean, I guess you could do a barter system where you've basically got multiple gangs bidding for you.
Exactly. Nothing prevents it.
Who wants this territory?
Right.
More? Give me 100 creds.
Yeah. It's like the shield, right? You just
I think that needs to be written into the rules.
But I think it needs to be written into the rules too, because people seem to argue about it. And to me, it seems very intuitive that that's part of the rule, which is that you're like Vic Mackey, and then you hold a little court, and you're like, oh, so which one of you scumbags wants to run this territory? I'll be taking your bids starting now. You know what I'm saying?
Especially if you're playing Dominion, of course, right? Certain territories obviously give certain special boons depending upon what gang you are.
Right.
So you're like, oh, so House Cawdor, you really want this, don't you? How bad do you want this one? Oh, you want it bad.
Yeah.
Give me 200 credits.
Yeah,
and some Archeotech.
There's a whole economy inside the game that the game is on some levels somewhat about. Yeah. And the way that the Enforcers feed into that economy is both very powerful and I think very compelling, even though it might not feel super good to all the players. Go ahead.
There's some balances in this, of course, because the other thing the Enforcers get is if you police a territory, you get so you fight a game, you claim the territory, you police it again. You also get like D3 plus 1 reputation. I think it's D3 or D3 plus 1, whatever. But you get more rep on top of what you would get from just winning the game as well. So you're also more likely of winning the whatever the title is to have the highest reputation in the game. So you are odds on likely to get that trophy as well. And the other thing is, and this has only happened to me once now so far in the campaign, is if a ganger dies, you get a free. You don't have to buy a Juve. You can't recruit Juves actually as an Enforcer gang. You get them for free when a ganger dies. And if you use all the new house books, Juves, you pay for a Juve, they come with nothing. So you have to buy their armor and starting equipment, blah blah blah. When you get a rookie, they come with armored unsuit, flak armor, stub pistol. And Magnicals. So
a really good kit.
You're getting essentially for the death of a ganger, you're getting someone that's worth about 125 creds, and the benefits of being a Juve, which means they go up and they don't get the experience tax by taking advancements. So it swings and roundabouts for them.
It seems to me to be a crazy powerful gang because it has like the old Necron vibe where it's just like, oh, we do everything different than everybody else. Which to me, when GW writes a game and then you look at the factions and you're like, well, which is the thing here that behaves in a way that is completely contrary to the way everybody else behaves? That thing is going to usually be super powerful.
Yeah,
because like I love GW and their willingness to color outside the lines and be like, let's experiment with something wacky. But then they like very rarely know how to make that balance within everything else that's going on.
And I think that's where Necromunda, it feels satisfying because obviously it's a campaign, it's a narrative, and as collective group of players and arbitrator, you go, this isn't fun. Like, this is clearly off balancing the campaign. Let's dial in a few things to give some balance into it. And we've recently got the underdogs gang tactics cards, and using those, which of course my gang is the underdogs. They're so less creds than all the other gangs.
Really?
I'm just taking by like 400, 500, 600 creds compared to the other gangs.
Wow, no kidding. So
I'm taking some of these cards, and some of these cards are literally like, if at the end of the game play this card, get 2d6 times 100 creds or something stupid. It's like, you're basically getting a ton of creds for free and then other stuff. So they're helping a bit to balance things, and so the flavor's there. We've got the plan is tomorrow we're doing a multiplayer game where we're going to play demonic possession. So a random member of a randomized gang out of the 4 taking part in the game will be subject to being demonically possessed, and then you have to kill the demon, or if you try and kill them, there's a chance they hop into another host. So it's going to be a bit of a free-for-all, which is a great way of getting some of the higher-powered gangs to get severely wrecked.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. It's just been really good. I mean, with the vehicles, I think it's been a lot of laughs. They're tough as they are such a new dimension to the game, because they're like, when you play Necromunda, you go, fucking hell, like a metal gun is like scary.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes up against vehicles, they're still scary, but you're feeling like a bit more confident, especially if you're running around in a Goliath truck armed with an autocannon, which happens to be what my enforcers have, and they've blown away people in it's good. It's good fun. So I'm excited for the new book, because that's going to be Vansar. And they've got the arachno rigs.
They're bringing out those the new
plastic
ones.
Yeah, with jump jets on them. Like,
yeah, so sick. Very exciting.
And the balance. Necromunda's, there's so much weirdness that balance is like it self moderates itself to an extent.
Right, or you could have sort of like a horizontal. I mean, I don't know. There's 2 ways to do it. If people are like really invested in the game, and the kind of people that sort of like play a lot of games and like to sift through these things and fuss over them, then you can do a very horizontal thing where everybody kind of governs by consent. If you don't have that, right? If you have a bit more of like a traditional like Warhammer group where there's like a few people who consider themselves to be tactical geniuses, and that like, oh, and anytime I lose, it's because this list was broken or this mission's broken. And you're like, okay, all right, sure. Cause you played flawlessly and it's the mission that's the problem. Right. Anyway, if you have them, then you have like a Leviathan character, like a really very strong GM can iron things out and make things fun and playable. I'm a little disappointed with Necromunda right now in that they released that revised book.
Yeah.
Where I had told people bet on a new edition when Ashways when they started releasing the plot books. I was like, here we go, it's time for a new edition. They've got all these different things that need to be kind of ironed together into one big book, and then instead of a new edition that kind of just really flushed everything and brought it all into line, it was like, here's another revised book. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. I feel like I just bought a goddamn revised book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I've got four rule books. I've got the original the original hardback they brought out. If we forget Underhive. God, I've got that one. I've got the Dark Uprising rule book. I've got the Ash Waste rule book, and I've now got this collected rule book. But I keep all the other ones because guess what's in all the other ones?
Cool shit.
Cool scenarios. There's like shit that isn't in the other books. So like I went through a whole load of my White Dwarf issues, and I literally just like the ones which are over a year old, and I was like, fuck it. And I just went through with a scalpel, slicing out all the Necromunda content from it, and went, and the rest can go because all the Warhammer stuff in there, all the main games is out of date. If it's specialist games, that has legs. Like if it's Adeptus Titanicus, still relevant.
Do they even put anything worthwhile for the main games in White Dwarf? Or is it just, I mean, do they, I don't know. Like, okay, so I don't collect White Dwarf anymore. I was collecting it fastidiously. And then when I was between gigs for a minute, I was like, okay, well, here's like a $12 a month fucking tax that I can just quit paying. And I stopped, and I haven't felt weird or bad or like I want to know what's going on in White Dwarf at all in that time. So now that I'm gainfully employed again, I haven't started reading it. I missed nothing. But the last thing I remember was that they were doing heresy missions. I was like, cool, new missions for heresy. And then like literally every mission was just like, if you have the new tank that just came out this month, you can take 3 of them. One side takes 3 of them, and then the other side takes some other stuff. And it's just like, are you fucking serious? It was just the lowest hanging fruit. Just they've really got, like, poor.
The new, what they call the bunker, which is like, I don't know.
How is that?
I don't know because I've not played any Age of Sigmar in fucking ages. I've not played it's all for that.
Oh, okay.
Really. And the thing that's really funny, and this gets us into the difference between like Necromunda, okay, they brought out a new rulebook. They compiled a lot of things. They reassessed a few things and to make it more obvious what was going on with certain rules. I can't remember the change. Oh, like it, the injury table is much more expansive now in Necromunda. But these are things which are more like they feel like quality changes. I still think they could have done some refinements, but overall, like you get experience more in the game more often and shit like that. So it just feels a bit faster as well. Like things level up a bit more. It just feels better. It does feel better, but it is another fucking rule book.
I know that whenever they release something, it's going to be good because it has been ever since 2017 or whatever when the new one dropped. It's been good, and I believe that it has a really high bar of quality. The problem is that I don't play Necromunda. It's not like my primary, so I don't play it like every month, even every year. Like I don't know when the last. I think the last time I played might have been in 2022. And wow. In order to like justify buying it, and then when you do get a game together, like say it's every couple of years, Necromunda comes back around, then you gotta tell all your friends, oh, gotta go out and buy this dumb rule book again, and then everybody starts dragging their feet. Oh, can't I just use the books I got already? And it's just kind of like. I have no doubt that the quality is there, but like unless it's an entirely new edition that irons out everything, at this point I already got this big pile of gang books and ash wastes and shit that I can cobble together using my GM brain. Do I really need a new book? Do I really need a new core? I
think that's where currently Necromunda kind of feels like that if you haven't got the new rule book, you're still okay.
Yeah.
Everything still works, and even the new campaign books coming out will still work. The changes in the core book are more like it's not a massive like whiplash kind of like change. It's like it's clearly a quality of life change to how your campaigns will run, but they're not like it's not a dramatic thing. So in that respect, if people have already got the Ash Waste rulebook because that only came out like 6 months before or so. You're not feeling like I don't think the pressure is really there to go out and get the big hardback unless you're like, fuck it, I'll get it now because having an extra rule book is actually quite useful when both rule books are pretty much got everything in, but you need to refer to the main one for like maybe the injury table.
Sure.
Whereas like then we get into the main topic. 40K.
Oh boy, here we go.
Right. I've painted, obviously you've seen, I've painted my Sister Battle Army, 1,000 points, and that's based off Battle Force. I've got the Tyranids, almost painted Battle Force, and will have 1,000 points. I've got the Necrons, I've done 1,000 points. I've got 2 more miniatures to paint. That means I also have the not Battle Force, the Combat Patrols. And then I've got my 1,000 points of Marines. And obviously some of that most of all that came from either Leviathan, from a friend who sold me both halves of 2 boxes worth of Tyranids, and Imperium magazine, which was a bargain for these armies, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I haven't yet even played a game because, Necromunda, lots of good fun, and I have a life. And then we get all these changes. So, what I was saying about you were asking, what's even in White Dwarf that's useful? They brought out, like, when 10th first dropped, they had in White Dwarf some, quick play sheets, card sheets with lists of rules and shit on them. So how out of date are those now? Because what is it? Devastating wounds and mortal wounds? I don't know what the fuck they are, and that has sapped all drive out of me to finish painting my Tyranid army. I'm just like, I don't know what 40k is. And then of course, all those card blocks, which I did not buy because I knew this was going to happen, of the index cards, well, they're all pointless now. Like, you bought that massive deck of Space Marine cards. Well, there's now a Space Marine Codex. So are those even applicable?
And no. I think they're doing another round of cards because they changed a lot of stuff. I mean, this is like a big topic, and I'm in this sort of unsavory position right now of being the GW apologist, because I'm actually loving 10th. I think 10th is just amazing. It's had some real problems. Like, you can't talk about 10th without talking about the problems. But overall, it's been an absolutely fantastic experience. I've played so many games. I've had so much fun. I've gotten my teeth kicked in. My win rate's pretty low. Don't care. I love playing 10th edition. It's very, very fun. And yes, you do have to kind of stay on top of it. And yes, the printed material becomes obsolete very quickly. But I think that the real problem there isn't with 40K as much as with the two elements that are sort of at war with each other inside of Games Workshop, where on one hand, you have what I imagine to be a much more sort of youthful kind of like 21st century product design component who are saying there's no such thing as books anymore, guys. We need to stop publishing books. Right. And then there's another component that says, and I imagine these are 20th century guys and probably a little bit older, and they're probably holding up a spreadsheet and they're saying X number of dollars per year come from books, and we can't have that number turned to 0. So what the fuck do you want us to do if we're going to stop publishing books? And so I get it. I understand that there's this division, but the way that they designed the game, there should not be books, because writing this shit down on paper is pointless. It should just all be in an app. It should just all be online. And let me tell you, I was working for the game store, right? The first project they put me on was do a youth league to get kids into Warhammer. So I got some friends together and we got like about half a dozen kids, super revved up for 40K. We played a bunch of games. They had a blast. Did any of them own a book? No. Do any of them own books now? No. How do they interact?
All on a tablet or phone, yeah.
All electronically. Yeah. They don't want to buy paper, and they don't buy paper. Putting this shit down on paper is for olds like us, and of course it goes out of date in 3 months.
So that basically means the only stuff that, if they're not going to buy books, right, the only way they're going to play is with what's in the combat patrols, which is free, right?
You can get stuff in the app, and then
if it hasn't had a codex out so far,
right? They're doing this thing where they're trying to connect things to GW is trying to do the thing where it and this is very boggling, and I think that this dissonance is one of the things that creates frustration with that company, because they tried to have their cake and eat it too. They try to do it both ways, where they're like, oh, well, we are going to have an app and it is going to have a subscription, but you also are going to have to buy a $50 codex that you're then just going to immediately throw into a recycling pile once you've gotten the code out of it. And there won't be a way inside the app to just buy the electronic version cheaper, right? No, we're not going to do any of these things. We're going to force you to interact with this sort of bygone technology of the book, right?
And so, the PDF books, let's just also point out, if you buy PDF books from GW, they're not much cheaper than the hard copies.
They're really not. When you consider all of the overhead that they don't have to pay in order for them to exist, they are not that much cheaper. So yeah, Rob was telling me that they don't sell PDFs of the AOS adventure books, like the Dawnbringer books. Like,
oh shit.
Like they don't even exist. So I kept he and I kept talking because Dawnbringers.
Oh wow.
They kept not. The last time I checked in, they still didn't have them. So I mean, I haven't stayed on top of it. Maybe I'll look.
Wow.
But yeah, so the thing is that it's 2023, and these kids, and this is we're kind of like circling back to these kids. When their codexes drop, they will find ways to get the stats and stuff. They won't sit on their hands and wait for. They won't be like, oh, Games Workshop locked us out of the app. Oh, I guess we're gonna have to just quit playing Games Workshop. They'll keep playing. They'll just go on Wikipedia and copy paste or something. It'll just make things harder, but it won't stop them from playing. So, yeah, the whole thing feels very backwards. The whole thing's very frustrating, and I agree with your frustration on the way that they're getting us the information. The fact that the game is just rapidly developing now, well, I mean, they decided that that's how the game was going to be, and that is now how the game is, you know?
Yeah. And this is something which I feel like it's weird because like when it comes to like Necromunda, buying a book feels like kind of like an event because it's a new campaign book and there's new missions and there's new stuff not just for your gang, and that's cool. And then when it comes to like Warcry, it's kind of similar because normally new warbands come along with a new campaign booklet that's specific to them and some new terrain. So like, and Warcry, I've played some more of recent edition of the new version of Warcry. Reactions are cool, love them. It makes the game much more like you're going like, oh shit, my warrior's going to get totally trounced. I will do the all-out defense type reaction, and it can save your bacon for like for claiming objectives or just like delaying enemy fighters long enough for you to get your heavy hitters in, stuff like that. So it does work. New Warcry is fucking solid and is actually next to Necromunda my favorite one of my favorite GW games right now, other than Adeptus Titanicus, which is its own beautiful thing.
Oh, but, goodness. Yeah, man. I'm sorry.
Books. Yeah. And, you look at other systems out there and I'm like, I've yet still to play fucking Batman Miniatures Game 3rd Edition. Again, that's all on an app. You can get all the cards for all the models all on an app, rules free to download. And then, and Warmachine, I'm looking at Warmachine again a lot more and pricing things up. And I'm like, yeah. And in the app, you get everything. Do you know what you have to pay for in the app? For what the Warmachine app does, if you subscribe, it's so you can save more armies, like army lists, easily share them into the cloud, so they're saved, and thus to other devices. So, it just makes, you're basically the back end. The stuff that requires a server, you have to pay for. That's fair enough to me. And then on top of that, you get access to some other exclusives, like exclusive scenarios and like, stuff for tournament stuff. And you can also unlock the fiction that's in there as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's £5 a month. And then you look at Warhammer Plus and you're like, that's what Warhammer Plus should be.
Yeah.
You should, if you get people to subscribe to Warhammer Plus, they should get all the fucking rules. They should get everything, because that is your constant deluge of money in. If you can get that incrementally from everyone that wants the rules, they will do that. And then because people go, okay, £5 a month, that's good. I get all the rules. I get all this video stuff. I get all these painting tutorials. I get all the old issues of White Dwarf where I can read fluff, 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 fluff. And then they go, oh, but we're not selling you books anymore. So where are we going to make the other money? They're going to buy more miniatures, you dumb fucks.
Right. And honestly, and this is this thing where they've linked the Warhammer 40K app specifically to Warhammer Plus sub.
Yeah.
I mean, it strikes me as particularly cynical because obviously someone in GW somewhere wants to pump up the numbers on Warhammer Plus.
You gotta stay relaxed.
Yeah.
You jerk off?
Do I jerk off? Yeah. Yeah, I jerk off, yeah.
How many times a week?
Like, three, four times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
They want to take this thing to stakeholders and they want to say, oh, look at all the people who are signing up for Warhammer Plus. So, I mean, me, a dummy, I like the new vampire model for this year. And so I went ahead and I went ahead and sprung for the Warhammer Plus. I went ahead and did it so I could get this stupid vampire model. I also get the app. I've watched 0 cartoons. I've looked at 0 White Dwarf episodes. I don't really care. I don't really give a shit. If they just made a fucking really good 40K app that had everything in it as it came out, I would pay so much more per month than I'm paying for the cartoon shows that I don't care about. And they could keep the vampire figure, honestly. Yeah. I just want the information. And let me tell you, if they're like, oh yeah, but if you usually you would buy a Death Guard codex, and then I guess you would buy other codexes to know what's in them or something, and then you just get all that for free. And it's just this kind of chiseler attitude, like, oh, don't want you to have anything for free. It's like, bro, I'm only gonna buy the Death Guard codex anyway. Okay, so that's what $50-$60 you're gonna get out of me, and that's it. But if you charge me $20 a month or more, that's a
codex a month. Well,
yeah.
Well, every 3 months, yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna just keep paying it. You know,
even if you're not buying more miniatures at that present time, because you go, my army's good right now. The meta or whatever the fuck is good. I'm happy with my army. You're still paying that, even when you're not buying miniatures. Like people who, so the people who go, I've got everything. I'm playing this. I'm not buying anything more until the next edition or whatever. But if you do this, you're still getting money out of them. It's
right. You're still rinsing them for the money because sometimes I need to check on what the Thousand Sons can do. And sometimes I'm like playing a game and what the kid across the table is telling me about their army sounds a little too good to be true. So I want to actually read it myself. I'll pay for that privilege. Not to mention, and this is the point that you made previously, which is, like, if I'm just sitting around and I have nothing to do, like I'm in a doctor's waiting room or something, and I start dinking around with, what can Blood Angels really do? Like, what if I use one of these new detachments to really try and build a Blood Angels army? What would it do? Then I start thinking, then all of a sudden I find myself maybe loafing around the game store buying things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens.
Or you press the buy it now button on your army list in the app, and it sends the order to Games Workshop, and suddenly got...
That would be great. Don't get me started.
Insane.
Yeah, if they did that, print money. Just print money.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I understand why they are resistant.
Yeah,
but I just think that their resistance that they are putting up now is going to cost them money later. You know, because as you have pointed out, they're not the only game store. They're not the only game company in the world. You know. No. And here's a little thing that I've kind of been looking at since I've been working at a game store, right? And I'm like considered to be a Warhammer expert at the game store I work at. I'm considered to be a Warhammer advocate, right? And so when things are going well for Warhammer, people look at me and they're like, "Oh, huzzah for Brendan, the guy who brought us Warhammer." And when things are going poorly, then they look at me and they're like, "You know, scoundrel." And what Games Workshop kind of what they want to do is they want every game store to just buy every SKU. They want every SKU on the wall, right? And there are thousands of them. Thousands. But then, because they're monkeying with the rules all the time, there's really only a few SKUs that anyone is looking for at any given moment. And those
Yeah.
change every couple of months. Then you layer on the fact that Games Workshop has not been able to keep up its production with the demand that was created over the course of COVID-19. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't get those SKUs. And you as a game store owner can't get them. And you as a purchaser might not even be able to get them on the Games Workshop webpage. I mean, go on the Games Workshop webpage right now and get a Land Raider. Good fucking luck. Good fucking luck getting a Land Raider, buddy. Like one of the most basic fucking things in the goddamn game, right? It's been around, that same sculpt has been around for 30 years, right?
Yeah, I remember when it first came out.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't get one, right? Now, this puts the game store in a real uncomfortable position because they have to maintain that huge wall of Warhammer shit that's just sitting there inert. If they don't maintain it, then Warhammer players will come in, see a dinky selection, they'll go, oh, this store doesn't have a good selection. They'll turn around on their heel, they'll leave, they won't come back.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they only want the one SKU. They only want a Land Raider, and you can't sell it to them. I mean, this is an incredibly frustrating position to be in, where you as the game store owner feel like you have to be paying all the time to stay in the game, but you literally, even for all the paying you do, you can't make the customers that come in happy. And when that what that's doing is that's creating a losing scenario where a game store owner might start thinking to themselves, why the fuck am I even trying to stay on this treadmill? This is a dumb treadmill to be on. Certainly there must be a game somewhere where the demand matches the supply and the people who come in through the door I can make happy, which is all you're trying to do anyway.
I wonder what that is, because I mean, what else is out there that's the hot stuff right now? Is it what, Shatterpoint for Star Wars and Infinity or whatever? I don't know.
Infinity, the saga of Infinity.
Is that all still metal models? Like fuck.
It's my understanding that they're moving over to resin. They have a bunch of resin now, so that's a real weird decision that they made. But and then apparently they're having their own problems with their fan base. So I feel like some of the tide is rolling back on Infinity. Warmachine hasn't.
I'm fucking looking at Warmachine. I am seriously looking at getting back into Warmachine solidly because I've got the two starter boxes preview boxes for Signar and Kador. I'm like, I just need to get the expansion army boxes for those two. I have two 50-point armies and extras, so then I can swap things in and out and try shit out. And honestly, I'm looking at it and going, I can look at the app and I can go, oh, I see how everything works, and I can plan shit out. Like, I just understand how that game works already.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir. When they launched the new edition, I got the app. I went and sourced a bunch of old ass models that I loved from back in the day. And then I went to my friends and I was like, guys, there's a new Warmachine army or new Warmachine edition out. And they literally laughed at me. People laugh. This is not some hyperbole. They laughed at me. They're like, oh my God, are you fucking serious? Warmachine, bro? Are you seriously coming around here with that? Like, the Warmachine Privateer, they have burned their audience so badly. The ill will in the community is just, I mean, it's off the chain. Like, people are very twice shy about anything that's coming out of Privateer right now.
But yet they still buy everything like GW shovels with the war game. It's astounding. I just find it interesting that, you know, we go through so many editions of different game systems that we get of the big players, and it's like, and you see people complain, yet they still keep with it, going to tournaments or whatever. And I wonder how much tournament scene plays into this, and I don't play tournaments, so I don't really care. But no, I just feel right now with where Warmachine is, it can be that nice little thing where I've got two armies, they play nicely, and I can just have it's a chill thing. And a friend goes, I don't have an army. I'm like, you don't need to go. You don't need to. I've got one. We just play and we just have a few beers. We roll 2d6 with nice bell curves, and we know how it all works. And it's all on an app. And I've got a phone. They've got a phone. It all works. And it's just like, it's cool. And it means zero fucking investment from them in order to play.
I mean, I hope you can get it going. I hope you can get it going. At the store I work at, we sprung for a few of the starter armies when they very first came out. They sit on the shelf. No one's really looking for them. There's no scene coalescing here.
The problem is the starter armies right now are quite a big investment because they're like 150 quid for the starter armies.
What is that in American? That's probably like $500 or something.
It's like you're looking at about $250, maybe $270. I don't know what it is on the
you know what? Website. I think it's cheaper over here because I don't think it costs that much over here.
Private Press is cheaper in the cheaper in the US. So I get the Private Press tax, whereas you get the GW tax. But the thing is with it, the fact that you can also play quite happily Warmachine on a 2-foot by 2-foot board with just a Warcaster and Warjacks, as your intro game, or just you're like, look, I don't have time to play a 2-hour game. Let's just play something in an hour. Done. And that's why I love Warcry. Warcry is that game. Warcry is that simple as well. Like, it's just cool terrain, cool war bands. Like the Eskurgan vampires are so fucking hot. I love that war band.
Oh, dude, I really want to pick those models up.
They play so fun. They play so fun.
Do they?
They're a bit of a glass hammer, but they're really fast and hard hitting. And they're just, their background, their lore is just great. They hate Nagash. I love good guy morally dubious vampires. Always fun. But yeah, so I'm basically, that's where I am with things. And I know on principle, when I first looked at the new edition of 40k, I was like, I think I get how this game works. But immediately once they brought out the changes in the space of 2 months, I was like, and now you've just destroyed it in my head. Like, I don't know what's going on again. Like, that's the problem, is that whiplash effect. And it's dangerous. It's fucking dangerous, I think. So I think that's what happened with 3rd edition Warmachine, was that kind of, it just wasn't good initially, and they did a whole bunch of changes and it whiplashed again, and it was like, oh no, it's all broken. So I mean, otherwise 40k 10th in principle is good because there's less stratagems and stuff that's not on the board.
It's a fantastic game. It's an absolutely fantastic game. And
you can't win just with stratagems, right? You can't just win with those.
They really limited the amount of stratagems that you have access to, and then the amount that you can play. There's still plenty of re-rolling. There's more re-rolling than I personally would like, but way less than there was in 8th and 9th. Like, I play a lot of Horus Heresy, and in Heresy there's almost no re-rolling. Re-rolling is very rare, and so it's more. It's re-rolling is more like uncommon now. It's like an uncommon thing.
Yeah, Necromunda, you hardly re-roll anything.
Yeah, it's an old school style game, but. So I don't know, it feels like it's in a real sweet spot. The core mechanic is just in a real sweet spot. Of course, there's all this controversy of the index lists and just how just all over the place they are in terms of variance. And it's like, and that is true. That is fundamentally true. But again, if you go into it with like just a good outlook and good faith, and your opponents also has good faith, you can have some really good games. I've met some great guys in 10th edition just playing pickup games in stores, which like blows my mind, because if you go back to my old Realm of Fire episodes, I used to just shit talk that so hard, hated it, and it's actually become really refreshing again. Like meeting cool people and playing cool games. It blows my mind.
I think I just need to actually play Combat Patrol. I need to actually just sit down with someone that's learned the rules. And I know some friends who have learned the rules, so I just need to sit down, crack out the System of Battle, and just do System of Battle, Combat Patrol, and just learn the game that way.
I mean, coming to it that way is the perfect thing for Combat Patrol. Yeah. When Combat Patrol dropped, I thought, oh, this might be a cool new format. And I've seen a lot of people doing like Combat Patrol tournaments and stuff. But then I played some Combat Patrol, and it's very weird because in order to balance everything against everything else, the data sheets for
they're unique, aren't they, to the Combat Patrol?
They are. They change them. They change how they intrinsically function. And what they really do is they pull things out. So you might have like a like I had an Impulsor. I played a Blood Angels Combat Patrol one weekend for fun. And the Impulsor, which usually has like 18 guns on it, it had 2 guns on it. And then my friend I was playing against was playing a Ghost Keel, which has 18 guns on it, and his Ghost Keel had 2 guns on it. And so it's almost like they have this idea of like no vehicle should have more than 2 guns.
Yeah.
And so for learning, and this guy, he was learning, so that was cool, worked out great. But in terms of just having that very zesty kind of like Warhammer flavor, it doesn't feel like a full meal. It feels like you just had like, I don't know, some air stat substitute. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think because I know Mike's been playing some 2nd edition 40k recently, or no, maybe 2nd, or maybe he played some 3rd edition 40k, just straight raw dog 3rd edition, right? Remember those lists? And that was a time when Tyranids, everything moved at the same rate, which was crazy, felt weird, felt really harsh on Tyranids, but it felt fresh. And that's immediately, I think that's the weird thing, is 40k's gone from immediately feeling quite fresh and with all those indexes and feeling like I can digest this, to immediately feeling like I don't know what I'm eating. I don't know what is this poo or is this fine cuisine? I don't know. And it's so I need to play Combat Patrol. I just need to finally make the time for it. But that's the thing, making the time. When you've got Necromunda there, you're like, I could play Necromunda, or if we're not playing Necromunda, I could get people to play Warcry because it's dead fucking easy to learn, or crack out or just play I've played some Aeronautica because I've got that. So obviously I'm all in for Imperial Legions Imperialis.
Yeah, you've got 2/3 Legiones Imperialis already.
I've got Titans, more Titans. I've got some Space Marine flyers that I've got painted as Blood Angels. So I'm just going to paint some Blood Angels when the box lands, and then I've got more than enough for like a huge army that is mainly going to be Titans. But you know what? That's where I'm in this kind of love-hate relationship of what they're doing with Legions, because it is basically 2nd edition Space Marine. And I have still a soft spot for 3rd edition with the blast markers. So it's kind of like, as they've done more of the reveals, it's like, do I really give a shit about the minutiae of what weapons are on each of the tanks? It's just a Predator. Do we really need to care that it's got an autocannon or las cannon? It's a Predator. But I guess because they're bigger scale, there's that balance of really how many miniatures are you expected to have on the table versus what kind of old school Epic used to have, where you had like tons of those shitty little rhinos and yeah, we'll see where it goes. I
played some Epic recently. It was super interesting. It was what blew my mind about it was that it felt like you were just playing Warhammer 40k with like real small models. Because seriously, it's just like you're removing bases. Like how maybe I sound not smart here, but it took me a minute because I was like, oh man, this guy, he's got all these Tyranids. He's just like running towards me with all these Tyranids. I can see all the little Tyranids on each base, and it's like, no, dude, you don't have to kill each one. You're just killing bases. It still plays. It still plays in a very recognizable way.
Yeah, 2nd edition is it's still like, I think the turn system is still, I think they've adapted the turn system a bit more though. So and you've got the secret orders, which was definitely there in 2nd edition. I can't remember if it was there in 3rd edition. It wasn't, but they're using the stuff that's more the dice, the action, the orders dice that are in Adeptus Titanicus with the little, those come from Epic 40,000. And so clearly, I think there's some things still there, but maybe, just maybe, we might, if they keep at this, if Specialist Games just keeps going like, let's make a good rule system, make it solid, it hits the ground, we don't fuck with it for like the first few years, and then we bring out a compiled rule book or whatever. They'll do the same with Battlefleet Gothic eventually. Like, because that is Epic 40,000 in space. I mean, that's where the rule system for that was it.
I mean, I heard I heard a little rumor. I mean, and these rumors, they go around and they just get transmitted by telephone. But I heard a rumor that GW is so backed up with their production schedule
Yeah.
and their capacity is so completely backed up that that the Battlefleet Gothic rules are finished and they're just sitting in a box somewhere because
I'm not surprised.
They don't have the. They just don't
Yeah.
like. How would they make it? You know, and I mean, and that has the ring of truth to it in my mind. That sounds like a thing that could be, you know, without any difficulty.
You know what was also stupid? I was looking at eBay, the terrible place.
No.
I was looking at fucking Dreadfleet.
Oh jeez.
There's a box of Dreadfleet and like just play it for shits and giggles.
I mean, are they still like $10 for like a box of Dreadfleet?
No, it's going for about £100. Like,
that's ridiculous. That's so
100,
oh my god!
Yeah.
You used to just be able to like just stack those things up in your arms. So, but now they've reached that tipping point where now they're rare or something.
Well, the other thing is, right. So I got Chig, who co-hosts on Darker Days with us. He went to Barnes and Noble last year to get Bladeborn for me.
Mm-hmm.
Post that over because it's not sold in the UK, which is madness. Because it was a Christmas present for my nephew and his dad. And because I was like, yeah, okay, Curtis is like, he was 6 at the time, but they've been getting Imperium magazine, so he's okay with stuff. He's obviously in a year matured a lot, actually. And he gets it. He gets how Bladeborn works. It's just Warcry Light on a hex grid. It's fucking great. That box is amazing. Like, I shit you not. It is super cool. And I painted up the Slanesh Underworlds warband. The one with the Slangor. Because in Bladeborn, you get other cards for the other warbands, and they're all Chaos warbands or a Skaven one as well, like from Underworlds that you can use in it. And when I went over, we took that and I was like, there you go, that's a birthday present, painted. We're playing with those, and it's just so good. I was just like, Jesus Christ, Warcry doesn't, like, they've just brought out that Warcry intro set with the vampires in it, also from Underworlds. But I think Bladeborn would have been a better intro, like a far superior intro. So Curtis is inherited.
Funny. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, Curtis has inherited all of my first edition Warcry stuff. So he's got all the books I had and all the cards. So I was like, to them, like, look, if you just play this edition, you can just go out and buy all these boxes and you've got all the rules. And once he's really solid like that and you feel you want to make the next jump, or mostly by that point, another edition of Warcry is out, you can make the jump. So he's got like a hobby for fucking ages now due to hand-me-downs. But
it's so funny.
Good. Yeah,
it's so funny how your guys' culture over there works, where this stuff's just like laying around. It's just like it's in charity shops and everybody has some in their attic and stuff. And one time I sat down and I didn't figure it out. I just typed it into the fucking computer and I asked it, like, what's the number of square miles in the UK? And then what's the number of square miles in Arizona, right? And Arizona actually has more square miles in it than the UK, which blew my mind to think about. And I was just imagining, like, what, like, if you took all of Games Workshop and just compressed it into Arizona, like, what would the culture of Warhammer be like, and how different would it be? Yeah, just really small. I mean,
wouldn't that mean you have a Games Workshop out in the middle of a desert somewhere? Like, fucking hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we have a surprising number of them in Arizona now, which considering where we were years and years ago when I first started this, but like. Just the density of it. I can't imagine the density of it.
I just thought something, and this reminds me of something I got told by the guys. Company no longer existed, liquidated. Grimlord Games, who did what was it? It was a tower defense game where you played the monsters versus the villagers. Village Attacks. There we go. Does exactly what it says on the tin. So their miniatures for that. The restic, that kind of like PVC plastic, which doesn't use, you can't use plastic glue on because it's not it's not polystyrene.
It is literally the worst for many reasons. But yes, go ahead.
Anyway, they were explaining to me how they had to the miniatures they had to do a lot of work with the factory in China, because you have to get the plastic to the right kind of like rigidity, right? So it's not too brittle, but you need it to be flexible enough so it pops out as a single piece out of the mold, right? Now, when it's in transport in shipping containers from China, obviously part of the places that it goes is very fucking hot, right? In a solid metal container, sun baking down, you've got an oven, right? So what happens to the plastic is it has a phase transition, which basically means the crystal structure starts changing on the plastic. And that's why what originally looked like really sharp features go soft and things look a bit smooth, because the plastic actually begins to flow a bit.
Oh,
so
really?
It just made me think, all the people with, all these games still using that type of plastic out in the hellish desert wastelands of the UK as well, Europe and wherever as the world burns, right? The only miniatures are going to survive are either if they're white metal or Games Workshop plastic, or plastic like Games Workshop ones. Everything else is going to become brittle. And the other thing was on the painting phase, just this week, Chris Peach and Patrick and Jeff, they had on, can't remember his name, guy but he makes some miniatures. He was explaining how they cast a lot of stuff in resin rather than using metal, because the cost of metal has gone through the roof. Hard plastic, obviously, as we know, making steel molds is incredibly expensive. So obviously making things in resin, he was talking about how obviously people go like, oh, 3D printing is going to like change the world. We need to buy metal plastic miniatures of Games Workshop. We're just going to print our own. He was explaining that because this guy comes from a background of miniature making, like professional miniature making for like TV, film, advertising, scale models for like people on their fucking housing estate models, whatever. The resin that you get for 3D printers, because it cures with UV, right?
Right.
So over time, the miniatures, even though they've got paint on them, are still going to get penetrated by UV light, right? So they're constantly curing, and the curing process makes them more and more and more rigid, to the point they're going to be so brittle they shatter. So those miniatures you've printed out, he explained, like likely in the space of 5 to 10 years, will just fall apart. I mean, it's a bit like lead miniatures, because that also kind of thing happens with lead over time. Lead degrades and becomes kind of like fluffy.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I got rid of all my lead miniatures. Like I had one set, those golden heroes. Anyway, those.
I've got confrontation miniatures that are still lead. They're beautiful and they're flexy and they're metal, which is really weird.
I mean, the 3D printed stuff is already like brittle as shit. Like,
Yeah,
don't drop your army. Remember how people used to be like, "Oh no, I dropped my tray that had all my metal models in it, and all the arms popped off, and all the paint chipped and stuff." It's much worse if you drop a tray of 3D printed resin. I mean, they'll shatter. And then I was talking to my friend Byron, and he was like, "What you have to understand about the way that the resin prints is it has these kind of like you were saying, this kind of crystalline structure on the inside, so it doesn't break smooth." There's not these smooth planes, so you can't even really glue them back together. There's like these, it's almost like these weird kind of helix chunks that you don't like trying to find the little match and then just, oh, hey, look, they just slide back together like they used to, or they do with plastic, or it doesn't, you can't do it. So that sucks. Yeah.
It's a weird tangent from talking about the fact that you've got about if you put the Games Workshop shops in, or community, whatever, across the UK into Arizona. Landmass. It's like,
the 3D printing thing has a long way to go. It does have a long way to go. So
I mean, I still see its utility for doing your initial getting your initial molds done and doing your prototyping. And obviously on the flip side, obviously, Private Press 3D print all the models that they sell. So all the models you buy in the boxes, those are 3D printed.
Right.
But they're using industrial grade 3D printers. I don't know about the choice of resin and stuff, how that influences the brittleness and lifespan of the miniatures. But again, it swings and roundabouts, because if you don't do that, then you're onto hard plastic. But then hard plastic costs a fuck ton, and you've got to make your money back one way, either your Games Workshop or your fucking Kingdom Death, right? Pick which one you are. Do you want to wait 5 years for your next expansion to come out, which is beautiful, by the way? Gambler's Chest for Kingdom Death is like fucking the most beautiful thing ever, and I've not touched anything in it yet because I'm waiting for card sleeves to turn up, because like I'm letting anyone touch those cards with like fucking Cheeto fingers. But it's just, or you've got to do hard plastic, or you go back to metal, but metal's just so expensive. It's just, that's the world we're in.
It is.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what's your, I mean, like I say, we try and get these episodes out, and we've definitely hit an hour. And we want to talk more about other things. We'll get Mike on to talk about his 3rd edition experiences, because that's going to be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that. I was literally just in a car a couple weeks ago with a couple of guys, and we were all talking about the books that we keep around for nostalgia. And it turned out we all had 3rd edition books for our factions, and we were like, well, why don't we just play? So I think that might be in the cards for me coming up here soon too. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear his thoughts.
I'm gonna, like I said, I've got this demon possession multiplayer scenario, and then we're going to do a little bit of a break from Necromunda, because I want to intro people to Warcry. And what else have I got that's lying around to play? Mostly actually do Warmachine, because fuck it. I'm looking at, is Legions Imperialis going to come out this month? Will it come out before payday? Can I buy some Warmachine before payday, and then that comes out and I buy that after payday? Will I get paid for my writing contracts before that comes out? I'm like doing all this mess on, can I press go? Can I press go?
All signs point to Legion Imperialis ain't coming out anytime soon.
Maybe end of the month, maybe next month. And obviously Necromunda is like there going like, ooh, Vansar. And I'm like, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And that's my gaming goal. Because obviously I've got more terrain built for Adeptus Titanicus. So maybe I'll get in some more Adeptus Titanicus, actually. That'd be pretty sweet. Oh, yeah, and we'll wrap up Cyberpunk, because I've been playing the new...
I can't believe you're not playing Cyberpunk. It's like right up your alley, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was like, the miniatures look kind of nice. I think just too many things were competing, and like Necromunda won out, because...
It's a similar game in a certain way.
Yeah, because over the pandemic, I got like, Dark Uprising. I basically collected a shit ton of terrain, a shit ton of gangs. Pandemic was over, and I've started a campaign. So I'm basically playing the game that I wanted to play when I was 15 years old, when I was playing Necromunda back then. I'm now playing the Ultimate Edition, which is like amazing. So yeah, how does Cyberpunk compare, like gameplay wise? Like, is it?
It's very different
and fast, or is it just?
It's super, super, super fast. And one of the things that is that I love about it, that I absolutely love about it, is it doesn't have rounds, so you can't ever out activate someone. So if I have what happens is that, like, when you've burned out your character's activations, and each one has a number of tokens on them, and when you activate them, they turn over a token, and they use that token corresponds to a die that they then use to test to take an action. When you're out of tokens to activate, basically you have to quote unquote inspire your gang, which means that they take a rest, and then you can flip over all your tokens. Now, there are these little characters. There's the equivalent of Juves. They're called Gonks. And if you play Gonks, then they can act during the Inspire round. But that always just means that there are no rounds in the game. You're always just playing. It has a very kind of like Mahjong sort of dominoes kind of feel to it, where it's like you activate someone, you take your actions, you make your play, and then you pass it to the other person, and then they take their actions, they pass it back to you. You're just going. It's very cinematic. The mechanic on it is a linear dispersal, which from a tournament tactical standpoint, I don't love, but from a fun standpoint, I totally love, because it's incredibly swingy. if you roll a 12 and I roll a 1, you win. You know what I'm saying? What am I going to do about that? But it creates really just fun, all that fun that you have when you're playing Warhammer and the dice just fuck you and everybody goes, wah! You know, that happens all the time during that game. And it's just a really fun game. I've been having blast with it. And tons of gangs out now, very accessible.
Yeah.
Super great.
And that's the thing I'm going to go with. Like, I'll try and see if I can fit into my little brief Necromunda break is actually sit down and play Batman miniatures game, the third edition of it, because again, because all the stuff I've got is the Arkham, the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City style designs of all the characters. So that's what I wanted to collect, and I just want to play that. So I've got some boxy MDF buildings to do multi-story, and I've got you can use the Garden of Moor, wouldn't look out of place. Heck, even Zone Mortalis wouldn't look kind of crazy as a Gothic style, factory in Gotham. Like it could easily look like Ace Chemicals.
Oh, for sure.
So
for sure.
I just want to play that and try it out, and because it's got some mechanics in there, the way that combat works, with how dice pair up when you're doing a combat when you're opposing, because you have to beat their dice and so forth. It's kind of seems vaguely similar to how confrontation used to work. And then the other thing I really wouldn't mind getting out and playing again is Hybrid, which was by Rackham, so in the confrontation universe, and that was kind of like their dungeon combat kind of game. And I've got pretty much everything that ever came out for that. And that game's like 20 years old. And if you look at the designs of that, like the tiles, the artwork, the amount of fucking text they put on cards was insane. I was like, you French people are mad. But
game design was in a different time.
It holds up. It holds up. Like very few games, I feel, even today out of Kickstarter, match it for its design level. So yeah, I've got a few things on my list I want to try and play, but I think mainly get people into Warcry so I can then do that as a break from Necromunda, because I think my player base is already thinking, once the Dominion campaign's over, what's the next campaign we're going to play? Because everyone's starting to think of, I might play a Delac gang, and I'm there going Enforcers were fun. Let's play some Gene Stealers for fuck's sake.
Classic.
Play some Gene Stealers. I want some crime. But yeah, it is definitely interesting times with gaming, and I think the thing we're just suffering from is GW's backlog and a lot of different things, and again how people. I think the thing which is sad when you said about how people don't want to try Warmachine again, it's the same thing of with roleplay. You're trying to suggest something that isn't D&D, and people look like you just spat on their grandmother,
I don't know, maybe it's just over here, but I feel like we've been experiencing a lot of the backlash of their attempt to essentially own role playing. And one of the things that has been noticeable at least in the Arizona role playing community is that people don't want to play D&D. Well, I mean, that's not really true. You say you're gonna have a D&D event and it always sells out, but I mean, they definitely hurt a lot of people's feelings when they did that. And I don't think that their market position is nearly as strong as it would have been if they had just said keep publishing your Kickstarter books. No one cares.
Yeah, it's as someone that has written for D&D based Kickstarters for Iron Kingdoms, when that went down, it was like, oh shit. I was like, what I was listening to Wayne, obviously I don't want to give anything away, but obviously it was kind of I just had to wait to see what the higher ups would do. I was like, oh shit, what are we doing? No. Cubicle 7 went down a different way. They've got their what they call C720 or 20, which they're doing their own D20 D&D, let's call it Heartbreaker. That's basically what it is.
Sure.
They're doing, but you could essentially, so that you can pull out D&D, you can put that in instead, and it will run fine. And then the other thing which I want to run, actually, we should sort that out as a streamed game. That'd be fun. I've got Cyberpunk. It's kind of there's a bunch of one shots, and it runs on it's a kind of a Powered by the Apocalypse system, so that looks hilarious and fun.
I don't know that one.
I'll link you. The box is beautiful that it all comes in. But yeah, I only mentioned that because we've been talking about Cyberpunk as a game. Is there anything else miniatures wise that's taking your fancy recently? Because I mean, you're selling them. Them.
There's always something. It never. Yeah, I mean, I did buy a bunch of Shatterpoint because I had to for the store. They asked me to paint up the base box, and I really can't explain how fun those models are to assemble. Like, there's just, if you're even if you don't like Star Wars anymore, even if like you see the word Star Wars and you roll your eyes and you're like, I can't take this shit, like you start popping those minis out of the sprue and you start putting them together and you just like are transported to some different place in your mind. And I don't know what it is. You can start hearing the music and you start putting them together and then you start painting them and then you're like, man, I'm jacked for fucking Anakin Skywalker. What a fucking great character that was. And you're like, what am I saying? Like, it's like, I mean, even if you don't, I've never played a game of Shatterpoint, but I've assembled a shit ton of the models, painted some of them, and they are so fucking fun. It is like the ultimate like hobby case game, because you can just get your favorite guys and you just put them together.
Whereas
paint them.
I've got Kingdom Death stuff put together. I have put together a new monster actually recently out of a expansion which I'd forgotten I had, or not forgotten. It was just sat there. And of course, that transports me to a world where the sounds are all wet and sticky and sloshy, and you're like,
giant pile of penises.
Yes, very much.
Dismembered penises.
Yeah, it's the Sunstalker. It has a penis. Yeah, it's But no, the new stuff's really good because you know the one thing with Kingdom Death is the multi-part armor kits. While nice from the core game, they had that problem with the multi-part Space Marines. Like, you could fuck up the poses quite easily unless you really knew what you were doing.
Oh,
Whereas now, what they've done is a whole load in the Gambler Chest. You've got a whole load of like what they call character poses. They have a dynamic pose. They're monopose with a particular armor kit, so you can represent your survivors with different combos. So yeah, I just need to attack that giant pile. But like I said, I'm looking at Tyranids, which I haven't got many to paint to get that.
They'll be fun. They'll be fun.
And my desk was untidy, and now I've tidied it, so maybe I might be able to do it. But
there you go.
Right. Well, I guess that's us done. Fuck it. Right. If you don't agree with us, you think the podcast is shit, email us at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. We'll do more of this. Brendan, obviously you're welcome to come back when there's some more shit to talk about gaming.
Can't wait.
Tell us about Shatterpoint. I'll tell you about more Warcry or Kingdom Death or whatever. If you want to get more stuff, go to the Discord, go to Threads. We're even going to have something on Blue Sky, so you can find us Dark Days Radio everywhere else. Mike and I are going to finally fucking record the last of the Chaos Gods episodes for Darkhammer, and then I will finally get my thumb out my ass and record for Dark Iron about the Orgoth for Iron Kingdoms, because the Orgoth are cool and they've actually got miniatures. So
my God, yeah, you got some shit to do, son.
There's loads, but and then there's what is it? There's Game Hole coming up, so Crystal's going to be at some events. Yeah, lots of cool shit going on. Yeah, cool.
Well, it's great. It's great being on. Thanks for having me. I'm trying to get back into content creation, just kind of guesting here and there, but in the meantime, I'm doing some videos. I haven't put one up recently, but I have a whole bunch that I need to get cut, just like you were saying. If you would come find me on YouTube at Death by Roleplaying, and then I've changed my old Instagram to Death by Roleplaying. Nice. So you can find I'm posting intermittently on Instagram again. I'm posting intermittently on YouTube again, and then just hoping to get that all kind of revved up back in that game. So thanks for having me on. It's been fun as fuck.
Yeah, it's been really fun. We'll get you on again, and we'll berate Mike about ancient Warhammer. No,
yes.
We've got to talk about it. Brilliant. Right, that's it. Bye, motherfuckers. Goodbye.
Have a good night.